The left is saying she's guilty of, quote, insurrection. Marjorie Taylor Greene represents Georgia in this Congress, and she joins us tonight. Congresswoman, thanks so much for coming on. So they're trying to prevent voters from voting for you. How is that democracy?
Well, it's not, Tucker. That's the thing. These people hate the people in my district so much they look down on them because they voted for me and sent me to Washington to fight for the things that most Americans care about, like secure borders, stopping abortion, protecting our Second Amendment, stopping the out-of-control spending in Washington, and stop funding never-ending foreign wars and all the insanity that takes place in Washington. Well, I went there and I have been fighting it, and now the progressives, the people that donate to dark money groups, you know, the 501c3s and the foundations, they've hired up some attorneys from New York who hate the people in my district and don't believe that they should have the right to elect who they want to send to Washington, which is me.
So if you can prevent voters from being allowed to vote for the candidate of their choice, which is their constitutional right, then the system's over. Is the Republican Party with all four paws jumping in to help you?
Not yet. I'm on my own to defend myself. Wonderful people are donating to my campaign, mtgforamerica.com, and I'm so grateful for that. But I have to protect myself. I have to go to court on Friday and actually be questioned about something I've never been charged with and something I was completely against.
Okay, so we're gonna stick a pin in Tucker Carlson being like seemingly shocked at the concept that politicians might be trying to stop some people from voting for who they want, which we've actually covered in a few cases on the show. We're gonna return to that. But first, on Marjorie Greene specifically, well, she's sort of right. They are trying to stop her from being a candidate specifically. We had talked last week about a judge sort of hinting in advance of a decision that the effort to bar her from running might go forward. Well, we're there now. The effort to remove Marjorie Greene from the ballot can proceed according to a judge. It was Judge Totenberg who put out a 73-page ruling that wrote that Miss Greene had failed to meet the, quote, burden of persuasion in her request for injunctive relief, in this case, stopping what that group is trying to do, which is basically having an ongoing legal thing that's gonna decide whether she gets to run. Says this case involves a whirlpool of colliding constitutional interests of public import. The novelty of the factual and historical posture of this case, especially when assessed in the context of a preliminary injunction motion reviewed on a fast track, has made resolution of the complex legal issues at stake here particularly demanding. And so these groups, Free Speech for People being the leader of these groups, are gonna go ahead on Friday morning. We're gonna have the beginning of this. And for context, this is only the second bit of bad news for Marjorie Greene this week. We also found out for the first time she had a fundraising deficit in Q1 of 2022, totaling $314,000. She raised a good amount of money, but she spent hundreds of thousands more than she raised. So, David, they're gonna be proceeding, trying to stop her from being on the ballot. What do you think about that?
Well, look, Tucker Carlson and Marjorie Taylor Greene want to make this seem as if this judge is out of, off his rocker. But the fact of the matter is, this is not a big deal for a judge to say, no, I'm not going to grant you injunctive relief, or I'm not going to grant you summary judgment, or all the other terms that you want to refer to when a judge early in a case is asked to throw it out. The judge will say, no, I'm not going to throw it out. We're going to let this continue and see where it goes. And the fact of the matter is, I'm glad Tucker Carlson cares about the Constitution, because the Constitution actually has a clause that says when somebody engages in an insurrection against the United States, they can be barred from elective office, from a seat in the House of Representatives of the US Congress. So it's what's already being done in Madison Cawthorn. Madison Cawthorn is a poster child for this. It's already been tested. The courts say, yes, this can continue. And in Marjorie Taylor Greene's case, look at her language before January 6th and some of the things she had said afterwards, and you can clearly make the argument that she was sympathetic and may have encouraged or incited what happened on January the 6th.
Yeah, and look, I think that that's interesting. They should look into it. I would say that personally, and I get that I'm the bad guy, and so if you're in the chat right now, boo this man, I suppose. It to me doesn't seem quite right, quite there. Like, she definitely was sympathetic towards it. Is it exactly the intent of that in terms of what she did? Well, we don't know 100% because the investigation still hasn't turned up even, I think, like very necessary questions about the potential tours that were being done. There's a lot of stuff we don't know. But in terms of what she said, to me, does it rise to the level of actively participating in insurrection? I'm not sure. If she had been, bashing down the windows and stuff like that, so maybe I'm the bad guy. That said, if they want to, take it to court and have a judge adjudicate it, that's what the system is for. So I don't know. Do you think
you're not a bad guy? Look, you're not a bad. Right now, the evidence is. I would agree. The evidence is not there that she was an active participant or insurrectionist. However, I think what the judge is saying is, well, it's too early to make that call. And right now, there's no evidence. But let's let the evidence. Let's let this group pursue it and see where it goes. And at a certain point, a judge may eventually say, okay, the group pursuing this hasn't met their burden, and therefore we're not going to keep Marjorie Taylor Greene off the ballot because she clearly was not an insurrectionist. But again, we're still early in the process, and I think this is the right judicial decision for the judge to say, let's let this move forward.
Exactly. Look, people are also pointing out, by the way, this is the same woman that like a week ago tried to get Jimmy Kimmel arrested for telling a joke. So I don't know, it's all, there's one other thing I want to talk about though, and that is the pin that we stuck in Tucker Carlson. If I could recreate, are you saying there are people who want to stop you from voting for the candidate that you want? They don't want, isn't that against democracy? He's never heard of it, David. In all of his years covering the news, he's never heard of voter suppression. He's never heard of them trying to purge voter rolls, cut down the dates that you can register, stop same-day registration and voting, make it harder to do mail ballots. All like the million different things that they've been doing, let alone that whether I think she was an active insurrectionist or not, she tried to get the results of the election overturned, which I would define as stopping people from voting for the person they want, having the actual results of an election be allowed to proceed. The idea that he has never heard of this, and then in particular, he's never spoken out against any of this voter suppression. He doesn't have a problem at all with what Marjorie Greene did, which by the way, there is a spectrum between doing nothing, having no reaction, and literally barring her from running for office. I don't know, you could have an issue with it. As a person with a platform that reaches millions of people every night, you could speak out against it, but no, David, he's never heard of a concept like this before.
Right, and this is Tucker playing his game and expressing outrage now and shock, and I can't believe people are trying to stop people from voting when, look, going back 20 years, there's a time when I was on a campaign bus with none other than Tucker Carlson, and we would compare notes about all the silly games the campaigns were doing, including, I think there was one particular state, maybe South Carolina, where one Republican candidate tried to convince everybody that the voting was actually not that Tuesday, it was the next Tuesday. And we all had a big laugh about, oh, look at this effort to try to sabotage the other candidates' votes. And there was Tucker yucking it up about all the ridiculous ways that candidates and campaigns will try to keep the other candidate supporters from voting. It was funny back then, we were sort of amused, and I'm sure Tucker Carlson, if he took a step back now, would say, okay, yeah, this is just sort of, what happens. But now, because he's got this huge platform, he needs to play to the audience and say, isn't this outrageous that people are taking away somebody's right to vote and taking away your choice and yada, yada, yada.
If only he had like a team of highly paid, experienced producers and bookers that could look into other cases perhaps where people were being stopped from voting. Anyway, you did nail it though. A lot has changed for Tucker Carlson. He continues on a daily basis though to yuck it up, perhaps in a different way.
For more political news, breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/thedamagereport. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.